5 important rules that will change your life, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I want to share with you 5 important rules, not just tips or ideas, but rules that have the power to change your life. These are not mine. They're inspired by someone who's dedicated his life to helping people lead with purpose, Simon Sinek. If you've ever heard him speak, you know he's not just about motivation, he's about clarity, direction, and why we do what we do. In everything we do, whether it's our career, our relationships, or our personal goals, there is one question that holds the key to long-term fulfillment and success. Why are we doing it? Simon Sinek's core philosophy begins with this exact principle: start with why. It's simple to hear, but profoundly transformative when applied. Most people can tell you what they do. Some can explain how they do it. But very few can clearly articulate why they do what they do. And yet, that's where purpose lies. That's where passion comes from. That's where the magic begins. Think about it. When you know your why, waking up in the morning has a different energy. Your actions feel meaningful. Your work feels aligned. And setbacks feel manageable, because you're not just chasing results, you're driven by a belief, a cause, a mission that's bigger than yourself. Your why becomes a compass. It guides your choices. It shapes your behavior. It helps you say no to the distractions and yes to the opportunities that truly matter. When your life is led by purpose instead of pressure, you move from simply existing to living intentionally. This idea is not just philosophy, it's psychology. Human beings are wired for purpose. We are not just motivated by money or rewards. We are motivated by meaning. A paycheck might get you to show up, but a purpose gets you to give your best. When people connect to a cause, they work harder, they feel happier, and they stay committed longer. This is true in the workplace, in leadership, and in our personal lives. The greatest leaders, the ones who truly inspire, don't start with a product or a service. They start with belief. Apple didn't just say, "We make great computers." They said, "We challenge the status quo. We think differently." That belief attracted customers who shared those values. The same goes for Martin Luther King Jr. He didn't say, "I have a plan." He said, "I have a dream." People followed not because he had a perfect strategy, but because he had a compelling why. But what about us? It's easy to think this only applies to big companies or world-changing leaders, but the truth is, it applies to every single one of us. Whether you're a student, an entrepreneur, a parent, or someone just trying to find their way, knowing your why can completely reshape your life. It means reflecting deeply and asking yourself questions that many avoid. What matters to me? What kind of impact do I want to have? What drives me beyond the need for approval or success? These aren't always easy answers, and they can evolve over time. But starting the journey to discover your why is one of the most important things you'll ever do. When life gets hard, and it always does, your why will keep you going. Motivation fades, but meaning lasts. You won't quit when it gets tough, because you'll know that you're working towards something that truly matters to you. And when you meet others who share that same purpose, that's when real connection and collaboration happen. Purpose is magnetic. It attracts the right people, the right energy, and the right opportunities. So don't just chase titles, goals, or recognition. Don't live your life on autopilot, doing what everyone else expects. Instead, pause, reflect, ask yourself, why am I doing this? The answer might not come instantly, but when it does, it will change everything. Start with why, and you'll start to live a life of direction, intention, and deep fulfillment. At the core of every truly successful and meaningful life is one simple truth: people matter most. In a world driven by results, competition, and constant hustle, it's easy to forget that behind every task, goal, or achievement, there are human beings involved, people with thoughts, feelings, struggles, and dreams. Simon Sinek reminds us that leadership at its best isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of the people in your charge. It's about making others feel seen, valued, and supported, not as a strategy, but as a way of life. When we put people first, everything changes. Workplaces become more than just offices, they become environments of trust and collaboration. Teams don't just complete tasks, they innovate, support each other, and grow together. Relationships, whether personal or professional, become more fulfilling because they're rooted in empathy, not ego. It sounds so simple, but in practice it takes real intention. Putting people first means choosing kindness when it's easier to be critical. It means listening when you'd rather speak. It means lifting others up even when you feel low yourself. It means leading with heart, not just with strategy. There's a misconception that kindness is a weakness, that prioritizing people slows you down. In reality, the opposite is true. The most effective leaders, the most resilient teams, and the most respected individuals are those who genuinely care. They create cultures where people feel safe to express themselves, take risks, and be honest, and that kind of safety is what unlocks potential. When people feel like they matter, they give more of themselves, not because they're forced to, but because they want to. This doesn't just apply in leadership roles or business. It applies everywhere. In friendships, being present and truly listening makes a world of difference. In families, showing love consistently, not just in big moments, but in everyday actions, builds lifelong bonds. Even in casual encounters, like holding the door for someone or offering a warm smile, we create small moments of connection that ripple outward. These acts may seem small, but they're incredibly powerful. Simon Sinek often talks about the importance of empathy in leadership. He reminds us that people are not machines, they're human beings who experience anxiety, burnout, joy, and doubt. Leaders who recognize that and treat people with compassion are the ones who earn respect and loyalty. They understand that checking in with someone isn't just a nice gesture. It could be the reason that person feels supported enough to keep going. And when people feel cared for, they pass that care on to others. It becomes a chain reaction of positivity. Putting people first also requires us to set aside our own pride at times. It means being willing to say, "I don't know," or "I need help," and allowing others the space to do the same. It's about creating a culture where vulnerability isn't punished, but honored, where differences are embraced, where success is shared, and where failure isn't a shameful event, but a learning opportunity that brings people closer. None of this happens by accident. It takes conscious effort to build relationships and to nurture them, but the reward is immense. Whether it's in your career, your community, or your closest relationships, when you lead with empathy, humility, and respect, you create a life filled with depth, meaning, and trust. In the end, the measure of a life well lived won't be the titles we held or the things we achieved. It will be the people we impacted, the way we made them feel, the way we stood by them, the way we lifted them up. So, put people first, and you'll find that everything else falls into place with a lot more heart and a lot more purpose. We grow up believing that life is a series of competitions. From school grades to job promotions, from social media followers to financial milestones, everything feels like a race, a game we're expected to win. But Simon Sinek challenges that entire mindset with a powerful idea. Life is not a finite game with clear winners and losers. It's an infinite game, one that's not about winning, but about continuing to grow, contribute, and evolve. When we shift our perspective to this infinite mindset, everything changes. In a finite game, like football or chess, the rules are known, the players are clear, and the objective is to win. There's a score, a referee, and an ending. But in life, in business, relationships, personal growth, the rules are always changing. New players are constantly entering, and there is no defined finish line. There's no final scoreboard that declares you the winner of life. When you realize this, the need to compare yourself to others starts to fade. You stop playing for applause and start playing for impact. You stop chasing trophies and start chasing progress. And that's where the real meaning begins. Playing the infinite game means you stop asking, "How can I beat the competition?" and start asking, "How can I become better than I was yesterday?" It shifts your focus from external validation to internal growth. You no longer define success by what you have, but by who you're becoming. You invest in your character, your values, your long-term mission, not just in short-term results. And ironically, the more you focus on the infinite game, the more sustainable success you actually achieve. In leadership, this mindset is especially powerful. Many organizations are obsessed with quarterly numbers, stock prices, or outperforming their competitors. But the companies that truly endure, the ones that become legendary, are the ones that play the long game. They focus on building trust, nurturing innovation, and creating cultures where people feel safe and inspired. They know that real success doesn't come from beating the competition, it comes from staying committed to a cause greater than profit. The same applies on a personal level. When you live with an infinite mindset, you stop fearing failure. Failure no longer feels like the end, it becomes part of the journey. You understand that setbacks, rejections, and wrong turns are not defeats, they are data. They're opportunities to learn, adapt, and keep moving forward. You begin to see life as a path, not a race, and every step, every chapter holds value. One of the most liberating truths about the infinite game is that there's room for everyone. Someone else's success doesn't take away from yours. You don't have to tear others down to rise up. You can cheer others on, collaborate, and share what you've learned, knowing that growth is not a limited resource. There's no finish line where only one person gets the prize. In the infinite game, the goal is to keep showing up, to keep contributing, and to keep becoming who you were meant to be. Ultimately, the infinite game is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters. It's about choosing purpose over popularity, values over victories, and legacy over likes. It's about playing not for the moment, but for the future. And when you do that, when you live, lead, and love with the infinite game in mind, you'll find that your impact stretches far beyond the numbers. It lives in the lives you've touched, the values you've stood for, and the example you've set for others to follow. That is how you truly win, by never needing to. One of the most overlooked skills in communication and leadership is the ability to listen. Not just to hear someone's words, but to truly listen with patience, curiosity, and an open mind. Simon Sinek highlights this with a simple yet powerful principle: be the last to speak. It's not just about strategy, it's about respect. It's about creating space for others to feel heard, and in doing so, earning trust and gaining a deeper understanding of the people around you. We live in a world that rewards fast opinions and quick responses. In meetings, discussions, and even casual conversations, people often rush to speak first, hoping to prove their knowledge or influence the direction of the room. But what if the most impactful voice is the one that speaks last? Simon points to leaders like Nelson Mandela, who was known to always let others speak first, not because he lacked ideas, but because he valued the input of everyone in the room. It was a sign of humility and, more importantly, of strength. When you speak first, you risk shutting down the ideas of others before they even surface. People may hesitate to share their thoughts once a strong opinion has been voiced. But when you wait, when you genuinely listen to everyone else before offering your perspective, you create an environment where people feel safe to express themselves. You show that their opinions matter. You show that you're not just listening to reply, but listening to understand. This approach has a powerful psychological effect. People want to be heard. They want to feel seen, not just for their roles, but for their ideas and experiences. When you let them speak fully without interruption or judgment, you build a culture of trust. And once trust is present, collaboration becomes easier. Creativity flows more freely, and conflict becomes something to work through together, not something to avoid. Being the last to speak also gives you a tremendous advantage. You get to hear all perspectives before forming your final thoughts. You gather more information, more angles, and more emotional context. Your contribution becomes more thoughtful, more balanced, and often more persuasive, not because it's louder, but because it's wiser. People listen more carefully to the person who has taken the time to listen to everyone else. It's not always easy, it requires patience and, in some cases, restraint. Our ego often pushes us to assert ourselves quickly, to demonstrate authority or intelligence. But real confidence doesn't come from dominating a conversation. It comes from knowing you don't have to. It comes from allowing others to shine, and recognizing that leadership is not about having all the answers, it's about asking the right questions and making space for the answers to emerge. In personal relationships, the same principle applies. So often, misunderstandings escalate because no one is really listening. We respond too quickly, defend too fast, and miss what's actually being said. But when you hold back, when you give someone the full gift of your attention before sharing your own thoughts, you not only understand them better, you make them feel valued. And that feeling is the foundation of all strong, lasting connections. Choosing to be the last to speak doesn't mean staying silent forever. It means knowing that your voice has more power when it's used with intention. It means giving others the dignity of being heard before expecting them to hear you. And it means leading with empathy, humility, and wisdom, qualities that don't shout but speak volumes. So next time you enter a conversation, a meeting, or a moment of disagreement, pause, listen fully, reflect deeply, then speak, not to overpower but to uplift. That's what true leadership sounds like. There comes a moment, often more than once, in every person's life when a choice has to be made, a choice between what feels safe and what feels right, between what is comfortable and what is courageous. Simon Sinek emphasizes that real leadership, growth, and fulfillment are born not in moments of ease, but in moments of boldness. Choosing courage over comfort isn't just a nice idea, it's a way of life that can transform everything you do. Comfort is easy, it's familiar, it's where we feel safe from risk, rejection, and uncertainty. It's the routine we fall into, the opinions we keep to ourselves, the dreams we put off for another day. It's doing what's expected, what's popular, or what won't ruffle any feathers. But comfort, while pleasant in the short term, is a quiet trap. It keeps us small. It convinces us that good enough is good enough. Over time, it dulls our potential and leaves us wondering what could have been. Courage, on the other hand, is uncomfortable. It demands vulnerability. It asks us to speak when it's easier to stay silent. It pushes us to try even when we might fail, to stand up when we might fall, and to be seen even when we fear being judged. But it's in those moments, the moments we choose courage, that we grow, that we expand, that we move closer to who we're really meant to be. Simon Sinek often points out that great leaders don't have all the answers. They're not fearless superheroes. They're people who choose to show up again and again in the face of fear. They have the courage to admit mistakes, to take responsibility, to speak the truth even when it's hard. They put the mission above their ego, the people above their comfort, and the future above temporary approval. That kind of courage is not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, consistent. It's found in the everyday choices that no one sees, choosing honesty over flattery, growth over stagnation, impact over image. In your own life, you will be faced with countless moments that require courage. The courage to start something new when the outcome is uncertain. The courage to walk away from something that no longer serves you. The courage to have a hard conversation, to ask for help, to admit that you're struggling. These choices are never easy, but they're the ones that lead to real transformation. And each time you choose courage, it becomes just a little easier the next time. It's important to understand that courage doesn't mean the absence of fear. It means acting in spite of it. It means recognizing the fear, acknowledging it, and deciding that your purpose is greater than your fear, that your values are more important than your comfort zone, that your life is too meaningful to be lived safely on the sidelines. When you look at the people you admire most, those who inspire you, move you, change you, it's not because they stayed comfortable. It's because they were brave. They risked something. They stood for something. And the beauty is, you have that same power. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment or the right conditions. All you need is the willingness to take one step forward, scared, uncertain, and human, but committed. Every time you choose courage, you make a statement to yourself and the world that you are not here to settle, to shrink, or to hide. You are here to grow, to lead, to live with intention. And even when it's hard, especially when it's hard, you will keep showing up. Because the life you dream of, the change you wish to make, the person you're becoming, they all live on the other side of comfort. There's a common misconception that leadership is something reserved for people with titles, authority, or influence over others. We often think of CEO, managers, political figures, or public speakers when we hear the word leader. But Simon Sinek teaches a deeper truth that real leadership doesn't begin with leading others. It begins with leading yourself, and that's a responsibility every one of us carries, whether we're running a company, raising a family, or simply trying to navigate our personal growth. So, leadership means taking ownership of your thoughts, actions, values, and decisions. It's about holding yourself to a standard not because someone is watching, but because it's who you choose to be. You don't wait for permission. You don't look around to see what everyone else is doing before deciding what's right. You lead from within, guided by your principles, your purpose, and your own sense of responsibility. This kind of leadership is quiet. There are no trophies, no applause, but it's what separates people who drift through life from those who shape it. When you lead yourself, you start showing up differently. You become more disciplined, more intentional, and more consistent. You do the hard things even when no one's clapping for you. You say no to distractions. You choose long-term growth over short-term gratification. And you treat yourself with the same level of accountability you'd expect from a great leader. Self-leadership also means knowing yourself, truly taking the time to reflect on your values, your weaknesses, your strengths, and your blind spots. It requires honesty and humility. You have to be willing to admit when you're wrong, when you're afraid, or when you need to grow. That kind of vulnerability is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of emotional maturity and self-awareness. The best leaders don't pretend to be perfect. They're just committed to becoming better, one step at a time. The irony is, the more you focus on leading yourself well, the more capable you become of leading others. Why? Because people don't follow titles, they follow example. When you demonstrate integrity, resilience, compassion, and clarity in your own life, people feel it. It creates trust, it creates respect, and most importantly, it creates alignment. You can't inspire others to live with purpose if you don't live with purpose. You can't ask for excellence from your team if you accept mediocrity from yourself. In moments of pressure or chaos, your ability to lead yourself becomes even more important. When things fall apart, people look for someone who is calm, grounded, and steady. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens through a daily practice of choosing to be that kind of person regardless of circumstances. You can't control everything, but you can control how you respond. And in that choice, you exercise real leadership. One of the most empowering realizations you can have is that you don't have to wait for anyone to label you a leader. You can claim that role in your own life right now. By showing up for yourself, honoring your commitments, living your values, and treating others with respect, you set a powerful tone. You begin to influence by who you are, not just what you say. And the ripple effect of that is immeasurable. So don't wait for the title, don't wait to be given authority. Begin with what you already have, your words, your actions, your attitude. Lead yourself with courage, with clarity, and with heart. Because when you master that, you won't just change your own life. You'll begin to change the lives of everyone around you.